Welcome to another GoldMine 101, our regular series of short presentations giving you hints and tips for getting the most out of GoldMine CRM. And in this session, I'm going to cover a top 5 user mistakes, the top 5 things that we find users may be doing slightly inappropriately in GoldMine, and some tips on how to avoid them to make your GoldMine system a little bit more efficient in its operation. So, good morning for those listening live. My name is Tim Wilmot, and my company, Wizard Systems, we're a specialist CRM system supplier, independent supplier, who help out small and mid-sized organizations improve their sales productivity, marketing, and customer service through the use of simple and affordable solutions like GoldMine. Now, this presentation will be about a quarter of an hour or so, just really just touching on the top 5 mistakes that we commonly come across with GoldMine. There could be others, but if you do need any help or addressing of the issues that I focus on in this session, please contact us at Wizard Systems, and we'd be only too happy to advise you and help you out. Now, the audio part of the presentation is one way only. If you've got any questions around the topics of this call, for those of you listening live, please type those into the question box on your meeting control panel. I'll do my best to answer those. And also at the end, I'll be giving you an update on GoldMine product news. We've got a new GoldMine release, just came out a week or two ago. I'll let you know about that. And this call is being recorded. After the presentation, you will get an email from our system with a link to recording that you can play back whenever you want to, and it will most likely be up on our YouTube channel as well. Just a quick mention about Wizard Systems then, independent supplier of various CRM solutions, including GoldMine. We've been associated with GoldMine a long time. We've implemented well over 3,000 GoldMine systems all over primarily the UK and a few beyond. But we provide the complete service around GoldMine, the software, upgrades, implementation, training, wherever you are. Most of it's online right now because of the pandemic, and ongoing support as well. We've got a friendly, responsive, permanently manned GoldMine help desk ready to answer your calls. Okay, so let's dive into GoldMine then. Top 5 mistakes that we often find with people using GoldMine and how to avoid them. So this is a typical GoldMine screen, and the first area that we come across where people may be using GoldMine slightly inappropriately and could improve on their use of GoldMine is the Notes tab. Now, GoldMine has always had a Notes tab. Most CRM systems have a general Notes tab, and it is normally used for just general notes, not really relating to any, shall I say, activity information or transactional data. Typically, Notes is free format. It's not particularly well structured. It can be difficult to do reporting on it as well. That notes in certain situations could be removed if a user's got the ability to remove activities or overwrite activities, records in GoldMine. They could overwrite the notes. So it's not an ideal place to put information that relates to interactions with your customers. So phone calls you make, meetings you make, other tasks that you do with a customer, you'll use the normal, hopefully you'll use the normal scheduling and complete options. So they're going to go into the pending and history tab, whether they're outstanding or completed activities that you've done with that customer, rather than notes. So this example here, where a user might have put in something to do with an activity, would be best placed as an action, as a scheduled activity or a completed activity, because it could be difficult to find it there. In this example, how would the user have a prompt to phone them back in 4 to 6 weeks' time? that might be questionable. And data information that's in the pending and history tab is more structured. It's more easily controlled. We can report on it. We can easily see it. There's more security around those options and more confidentiality as well if you wanted to hide certain activities from certain users, if that's what you want to do in your CRM system. So that's number one. And really how to avoid users putting in maybe inappropriate information into notes is education, and just monitoring and education, and monitoring your GoldMine records, and making sure with a little bit of education instruction they're putting the using activities, using the activity list, using the calendar in GoldMine to more easily see in a visual way what activities they've done and what activities they've got coming up. Right, that's notes then. Next one I wanted to point out to you is going to be the email addresses, or emails and email addresses. So when you receive emails into GoldMine, either using the GoldMine email system, the GoldMine email client, or if you're using the inclusive Outlook email integration, the key factor on linking an email to a contact record is via the email address. So when we get an initial email in from a client, it's if GoldMine has that email address, that's the way it's going to link that email to that contact record. If, however, you've got an email that's come in that where you don't have the email address in your GoldMine database, the user has to think about teaching GoldMine to link that email, and thereby linking that email address to the correct contact record. So I've got an example email here, an email that's come in, and it's been linked to this record, maybe correctly or incorrectly, but I can actually do a quick little check. I can hover over this link button there, just to wherever I see that email, I can hover over that button to see the record it's linked to. Now, this email that's come from a company, Jackson's Art, any subsequent email that comes in from them is going to go against this ABC record. If that's wrong, we've got to teach GoldMine, for whatever reason, where this went wrong, for whatever reason, we've just got to re-educate GoldMine and link it to another contact, transfer this email and link it to another contact. Very simply, I click on that button there, and I would just go through the process of really these top three options here. Do I want to find an existing contact record? Do I want to create a new contact record? Maybe Jackson's Art is a new company to me. Do I want to find an existing contact record and attach this person as an additional contact record to the main contact, or do I want to leave it unlinked? The key thing would be to move this address. So we don't want any subsequent emails still going to the ABC record. We want it to go to the Jackson's Art record. So that's another key area. That's the second key where we find emails going in there. And related to emails, the other thing is in your email center in GoldMine, always try to remember to keep your inbox as small as possible. So GoldMine will give you a count of the number of emails in your inbox. We do find with some GoldMine users, they don't get into a practice of, in GoldMine, filing an email or fast filing an email. So when you have dealt with an email, you would file it or fast file it. GoldMine may prompt you for a follow-up action. We are archiving this email. It's going into the history of that contact record. But if you want a reminder to do some kind of follow-up activity with that client, then it's best to use the file it button, whereby you'll be prompted for a follow-up activity there. But it does ensure that you keep your inbox quite small. We do also find some users creating lots of folders in their inbox, sometimes with the names of the customers that they relate to. You don't need to do that. GoldMine's going to do it automatically for you. It's got a really neat way of filing information against the appropriate contact record, but you just got to ensure the first email that comes into your GoldMine system, if GoldMine hasn't found the email address for that email, you've got to teach it. And again, how to avoid this happening, the emails going to inappropriate records, is down to education and monitoring and education, and making sure your users know how to link in those emails, whether they're using the GoldMine email client or the Outlook email integration. So that's email then. Issue number 3, duplicate records. Typically, this is not a fault of GoldMine, but typically you will find this with any CRM database application. But GoldMine gives you some really nice ways of solving those duplicate records. But when you create a record, we often find people maybe not checking for obvious duplicates. So when you have potentially a new contact record, maybe do a quick search by the person's name or the company name, just to do a quick check in your GoldMine system to make sure that the duplicate record, you're not inadvertently duplicating that information. Of course, when you create a new record in GoldMine, you do have in this duplicate checking section here, a few little check boxes. That's a sticky setting. So when you've checked those boxes, GoldMine will remember that for the next time that you create a new record. So just be vigilant of that. And again, monitor your colleagues just to make sure they've got that in there to check on the primary phone number. Phone number there is just checking phone number 1. Phone number 1 in GoldMine is deemed as the primary phone number of that contact record. So it's often a useful way of detecting duplicates. And then, of course, we've got email address in there as well. GoldMine by default is not going to allow duplicate email addresses, but it could allow duplicate contact records. So just monitor the situation. Also, we do have in the database tools in GoldMine a merge purge utility that we've covered on previous 101 sessions. A great way of merging contact records if you do spot them, or retrospectively going through your database, through the whole database or through a subset of the database, and merging in duplicate records together based on some kind of comparison criteria that you determine, maybe a match of company name and postcode, for example. So there we are, a duplicate record. Watch out for duplicate records. Now, I mentioned phone numbers on duplicate checking, and there are a number of our GoldMine clients that are using GoldMine for managing their phone call activity. They've got GoldMine linked to their phone system for monitoring inbound calls, so the contact record is located, or for making outbound calls, a click to dial type capability. So if you have the appropriate integration, it might be possible to automate that phone call activity there. But some phone systems do require you to have the phone number format in a consistent consistent format. So typically, again, depending on the type of integration you've got, your system may not allow brackets around the area code. So just watch out for that. It's best to try and keep things consistent. So GoldMine does allow you to type in anything into these phone number fields. I could type in text into that field. GoldMine will accept it. So again, on how to avoid it, it's down to education and monitoring new records that come in, but keep to a consistent format. And the safest format is to remove all of the blank spaces, any characters in the system. So for example, that mobile number there, do that. Also, another good practice to consider might be to relabel these fields so that you know where the mobile number is, or to use these extension fields here. Yes, of course, you could put in the extension when you get through the switchboard. You could have the extension of that contact, but you could also use this little labeling technique there in that little pick list for that phone number 1 to display what type of number that is. So get consistent with the format of your phone numbers and where phone numbers go. So the primary number is going to be phone number 1, generally in GoldMine. All right, that's phone numbers. Number 5 are custom fields. Now, with GoldMine, as standard, of course, it's going to track all of the primary information for your customer, but it is so easy to create your own custom fields for recording other information about this contact company. And normally they are displayed either in the top half of the screen or on a field tab or another tab of your making. We do sometimes come across perhaps very enthusiastic GoldMine users that have created sometimes hundreds of custom fields. And the danger is there that you're making the system a little bit too difficult and onerous to use, and it can be difficult to find information. And then when a system is difficult to use, you unfairly blame GoldMine for whatever problem or issue you come across. So be realistic, be ruthless. When you create new fields, you can, as an administrator user, you can create these fields very easily here, and you can place them wherever you want to on your screen. But be ruthless. Think, is that field really important for my business? Does it support some kind of marketing activity? Does that field appear in any management reports or dashboards I create in the GoldMine CRM system? Is it important for tracking some kind of process or a really important customer service type information that I use on a regular basis? If not, potentially then remove those fields. So maybe a little spring clean check to remove unused fields there. So just watch out for maybe creating too many custom fields and potentially making your GoldMine system a little bit too difficult to use for your colleagues. So there we are. Top 5 of the typical issues we find on the help desk of users getting into some bad practices. Now, it's not to say any of those are wrong. For example, on notes, maybe you want to keep things really, really simple in your GoldMine system. There's nothing wrong with, if you want to, recording activities on the notes tab. I know some people do, and they give us good arguments for doing that. But just realize the potential advantages of using GoldMine more in a textbook way around that notes tab. But hopefully that's been of use to you, and those listening live, you'll be familiar with the format. If you've got any questions around this topic or related topics, please type those into the question box on your meeting control panel. I'll do my best to answer those for you. So let me just take a look here. Ronnie, if you find your phone numbers in the wrong position and all mixed up, I guess you use global replace for that? Question mark. Yes, you would. Yes, you would use the global replace feature of GoldMine after you've done a backup, the global replace, to remove these if they're in the wrong, if the phone number is in the wrong format or the wrong field. Yes, exactly. That's what the global replace is all about, is moving that field from position A to position B, and also restructuring the data as well. There are little nifty ways of removing blanks, removing brackets as well within a phone number to get to a more consistent format. Exactly. But prevention's better than cure. Far better to, if you are starting out with GoldMine, I don't know, Ronnie, the age of your GoldMine system, but if you've been using it many years, maybe it might be more of a challenge to move all this information around to get to more of a consistent format. But if you're just starting out, can be easier. Gabriella, on fields, is there a limitation to mandatory entries? I'm not aware of any limit to mandatory entry. You could, if you've got too many fields that require an entry to them, you could, going back to what I said earlier about having too many fields, if you've got too many fields that require an entry to them, that again can be counterproductive and could make the system more difficult to use. So just be careful with overdoing it on the mandatory fields. I don't think there's any upper limit there, but just be thinking about your users and making the system too difficult to use. Because if you have too many mandatory fields, the danger is your users won't type in information. So it could be counterproductive there. Right. Thanks very much for those questions. Just to give you some update on latest news with GoldMine. So we have actually opened up our office. We are starting to do training in a limited way. We are very COVID aware and taking all the precautions in our Bristol office. But if you do have any requirements, you want to come to us rather than us come to you, we can do that. Or of course, online training as well. Latest GoldMine release is 2020.1. Came out about 2 weeks ago. And this release includes the all-important updates to email security as required. It's the more secure OAuth protocol, which is used in Office 365 and Google, for example. So very important if you're using email in GoldMine, a strong recommendation to consider an upgrade to 2020. Please contact us for details on that release. And to get releases, you've got to have a maintenance contract with GoldMine. There are some special offers still available for GoldMine maintenance. If you have been out of maintenance for some time, please contact us for details on that. So that's the end of our session on top 5 typical top 5 errors or mistakes we typically find with GoldMine users. Hopefully that's been of use to you. Maybe you've spotted something that you do yourselves in GoldMine, and you may now want to reflect on that and see if you could improve on things. But please contact us if you want any more help. And also please contact us if you've got any ideas for future suggestions for future GoldMine briefings, GoldMine training topics like this. Please contact us and we'll consider that. So there's our contact details. Thanks for watching and catch up with you next time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.